Hello, and welcome to the Prepare podcast. My name is Daniel Baldwin, and on this episode, I'm going to talk about the Alaska Summit, Middle East Mayhem, DC drama, and finally, the Golden White House. For the next few days, parts of the West and Southern U.S. are feeling the heat. It's up to 98 degrees here, and in some parts of California and Arizona, it's getting up to 108 degrees and even 111 in Imperial Valley in Southern California. But what is not so hot is President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet, and not in DC, and not even in like Geneva, not even somewhere neutral like Iceland. No, they picked Alaska. Now, I can't count the number of times that I've heard of a U.S. president going to Alaska for anything other than a photo op with a salmon. But a high-level diplomat meeting? I can't think of a single one. On the surface, sure, Alaska's technically U.S. soil, but it's also about as close as you can get to Russia. Maybe Putin doesn't like long flights. And if you've been following Russia political chatter for the past few years, you know there are some officials who have openly talked about taking back Alaska. So naturally, the conspiracy crowd is buzzing. Is this just a neutral meeting spot? Most analysts say it's more likely about appearances, a chance for Russia to look cooperative, maybe get some sanction relief without actually making serious progress towards peace in Ukraine. And sure enough, Ukraine's already said, we're not agreeing to anything unless we're at the table. Meanwhile, the rumors are flying. Ukraine is preparing a major strike, and Russia is preparing for a counterstrike. And for regular folks like us, that means ongoing instability in energy markets, transportation, and yes, in the food supply chain. And this is why I keep saying world events don't stay on the other side of the pond. A conflict 5,000 miles away can still hit your grocery bill. Just ask anyone who bought cooking oil in 2022. Now, speaking of tension, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced plans to move into Gaza and relocate civilians into designated safe zones. That's already got the global community split. Some countries are supporting the move, while others, like Australia, formally recognizing Palestinian statehood. And that's not the only front. Netanyahu's also warning Hezbollah in Lebanon, either disarm voluntarily or Israel will do it for you. And they're openly talking about preparing for a strike on Iran, while accusing Iran of doing the same to them. I'm no military strategist, but that's not exactly a recipe for stability. And here's the part that matters for us. In the Middle East, it's just a geopolitical hotspot. It's tied to global shipping lanes, oil production, and a surprising number of agricultural imports. Escalation here can send fuel prices up, which in turn drives up the cost of producing and transporting everything, including food. A single container ship stuck in the Suez Canal backed up trade for weeks. Now imagine that times 10 in the middle of a war. That's why keeping a well-stocked pantry isn't panic, it's just smart. You're buying food today at today's prices, not next month's inflated prices. Back in the United States, the headlines aren't much calmer. President Trump has announced that he's sending over 1,000 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. They're already arriving as of this morning, and they were sent there to tackle crime. Now, D.C. does have a problem with high crime rates and homelessness and all the usual big city headaches. But the move's raising eyebrows because the president doesn't usually deploy military force for local law enforcement. That's supposed to be a state or a congressional decision. Critics say it feels a little like building a fortified Capitol bubble. Supporters say it's about time. And lastly, have you noticed the makeover happening at the White House? Reports say the White House is getting more gold-colored decorations every day. And there's even talk of building a new gold-trimmed ballroom. The changes are making it look a lot less like the nation's home and more like something you'd see at a royal palace. But here's the bigger story. Behind the headlines, the U.S. national debt has just crossed $37 trillion, and it's growing by roughly $22 billion every day. That's not regular spending, that's actually new debt that's being piled on. To put it in perspective, about 22% of today's total national debt was added during Trump's presidencies, both his previous and his current term. The problem is that the net interest that the U.S. government is having to pay on this keeps going up. In 2022, it was about $475 billion and $880 billion last year, and is estimated to be about $952 billion this year. That's just the interest that they have to pay every year. Now in 2024, the government had $4.9 trillion collected in revenue, but they spent $6.8 trillion. The result of this is higher inflation, higher taxes, and reduced benefits. It all trickles down, which is why I keep hammering on the point. Your emergency food isn't for doomsday, it's for protecting yourself from bad economic days ahead. So let's connect the dots here. We've got tensions between global superpowers, multi-front conflict in the Middle East, political moves at home that raise legal questions, and an economy running on debt. Each one of these on its own can disrupt markets and supply chains. Put them together, you've got a world that's a little more fragile than most people realize. But that doesn't mean we need to be afraid. Just prepare by investing in your future with stored food and supplies, and put your trust in God to help you through the troubles. All right, that's this week's Food Storage Guys Prepare podcast. Remember, prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually, because peace talks are nice, but food on your plate is practical. I'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay stocked, and stay ready.